Every year, tens of thousands of Philadelphians face eviction, and many of these people, mostly single mothers, people of color, and people living in poverty, must fight with no legal support.
We are living in a Philadelphia eviction crisis that targets the poorest residents of the nation's poorest large city.
A hearing was held on March 20th to discuss Philadelphia's eviction crisis, hosted in part by Councilwoman Gim and Maria Quinones Sanchez. Several Philadelphia residents talked openly about their eviction experience.
My living conditions are impacting my anxiety and breathing. If I must relocate due to the poor living conditions, it would be very difficult for me. I am on a fixed income and I've had trouble finding decent, affordable housing. As bad as the conditions are right now, I have nowhere else to go.
Many lived in poorly maintained buildings with no heat or leaky roofs in some cases, and had to deal with unresponsive landlords who threatened and pursued eviction when asked to make repairs.
You feel really restricted in your choices, and like you have to settle for what is there because that is all you can afford. Most of us don't know our rights or don't know what landlords are supposed to do. This is not something you learn in the streets. The laws are not told to you by your landlord.
Home sweet home is a saying many have the privilege to shout at the end of the workday. But for Philadelphia residents living in poverty, resources are so limited. The difficulty of accessing community resources and public legal education create an unbalance when it comes to fighting for the basic human right of safe housing. Rashida Phillips is a local activist who holds community workshops in North Philadelphia at the Community Futures Lab. Also, she is a managing attorney of the housing unit at Community Legal Services, where she represents low-income tenants facing eviction.
There are slumlords out there, who don't take care of the property. So what's your right as a tenant if something like that happens?
Yeah. So as a tenant, when you are faced with substandard housing conditions, and this is not just a Philadelphia thing, it's a statewide right. You have the right to withhold your rent, or you have the right to do something called repair and deduct. So withholding your rent means that you're not paying your rent going forward until the issues are resolved. Repair and deduct means you're deducting from your rent in order to fix those issues yourself, and then you don't owe that rent because it's been deducted from your rent for fixing that issue. There's a notice requirement. Of course, you have to let your landlord know that there's an issue. You have to give your landlord an opportunity to fix it. Usually that's best done in writing, and there should be a paper trail around how many times you've contacted your landlord, and it can't just be any issue. It has to be something severe. If your rent's $1,000 a month and it's just a leaky toilet, right? You don't want to withhold the whole $1,000. You want to withhold a portion that makes sense. It can be a difficult process to navigate, and even if you do all the right things, you may still find yourself in court. You may still find that the landlord is filing for eviction for you, against you, even if you're in the right.
Clyde Brighton from the Philadelphia Tenants Union, which is a tenant-led organization dedicated to winning safe, decent, and affordable housing for every renter in Philly. He believes that the eviction crisis is partly because of an imbalance of power between landlords and tenants.
The case that Helen Gim and other city council members are putting forth on the eviction hearing, like what the solution they're trying to provide, we think is not enough. We totally respect that there needs to be legal funds for tenants in landlord-tenant court, but what's being proposed is $200,000, which is an incredibly paltry amount for the amount of tenants in the city with problems. And this also doesn't change the nature of the relationship between landlords having power over tenants. You shouldn't have to sue your landlord or take your landlord to court or be taken to court by your landlord in order to have decent housing. And so it's a cycle where you move out into worse neighborhoods, worse conditions of housing, and ultimately, I guess the end game would be homelessness, which is, and that in itself is a cycle that's incredibly difficult to get out of.
Last year, 24,000 families faced eviction, and that is just the ones that we knew about and had legal filings.
John Rowe is the executive director for UESF, the Utility Emergency Services Fund. UESF is committed to a holistic, preventative, and cost-efficient approach to assisting vulnerable families impacted by the housing crisis. They're a one-stop shop that offers immediate resources and empowers families to address the root causes of their utility and housing crisis.
We're firm believers in the housing first approach, where housing itself provides that foundation for a family from which other things can happen. We were able to actually help someone find a job, locate more affordable housing, or be an advocate for better housing. Everyone is just better off. As families get evicted, that is a leading cause of homelessness. The lack of utility assistance is one of the leading causes of homelessness. For the need of a couple of $1,000 perhaps for utility assistance, or to have better eviction prevention, things happen, we can save the city anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 in shelter costs. The strain on transitional housing is there because of the eviction problem. And once someone gets into that system, they're in that system and it hurts them. And they come out of it on the other end, if they come out of it, different people. And that's where I see part of the intergenerational aspect of poverty happen. I would want more than anything is for the powers to be to look not just the next step or two, but what is the ramification over the long run.
In these times of increased uncertainty, many are wondering how the City of Brotherly Love will protect its most vulnerable. Ariel Taylor, Philly Cam Voices.